This is Hannibal here from the hannibaltv.com, and I am with former TNA Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and WWE superstar, among other companies he's worked for, Mike Bennett, aka Mike Kanellis, right?
Yes. If we could maybe forget about Mike Kanellis, that would be preferred. No, I'm just kidding. No, that is correct. Yes, that is. Uh,
And now you're with the NWA United Wrestling Network. As far as, can you hear me? Sorry, it seems like you're freezing a bit. Uh-oh. We may have lost him for a second, but he's probably going to be right back. So I will be putting in your questions to this. There seems to just be a small issue here with seeing Mike. Uh-oh, that's not good. Hopefully he'll be back soon. Oh, there he is. Okay, I see you now. Sorry.
All right, I'm back. No, it's good. Everything good now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. I tried to move my
forced you to
location.
get out
I don't
of
know
bed.
if my Wi-Fi is. You did.
So you're
No
wrestling
problem
for the
whatsoever.
United Wrestling Network now. NWA is affiliated with them. You recently fought Nick Aldis. You had a match this week on the pay-per-view. Next week, I understand you're fighting Davey Boy Smith Jr.
Yeah, I actually think it's the week after that. Originally, it was supposed to be next week, but when I was there this past week, I think they moved it until November 3rd. But either way, it is Davey Boy Smith Jr.
So how have you liked your experience so far with the United Wrestling Network? It seems to be getting some steam behind it now.
Yeah, man, it's been really cool for me because I didn't know where I would go after WWE, and I didn't know who would be interested or what my path would be. And this has kind of given me a platform. It's kind of given me a place to go, a place to call my own, and a place to like show what I'm trying to prove and prove that I'm entirely different than what people have seen for the last 3 years. So between the match with Aldis and then last week, the match with, or this week, I should say, the weeks tend to mesh together after a while. But the match I just had with Kratos and then Davey Boy Smith Jr., it's given me a really decent platform and a really cool platform to try to show my abilities and show what I'm capable of. So it's been fun, and I feel truly blessed and humbled that this company has given me this opportunity, because nobody has to give me an opportunity, honestly.
Now they're recording in the Hollywood area of California, from what I understand. Where are you based now?
So I'm in Illinois. I'm like an hour outside of Chicago. So it's actually interesting. So because the times are crazy, and because of COVID, and because I have 2 kids, my schedule with UWN has literally been I fly in Tuesday, the day of the show, at like 7 or 8 in the morning. I get there at like 11 or 12. And because it's West Coast, I'm able to catch a red eye. So then I catch a red eye home that night, and I'm home by 5:30 the next morning. So then I can go and see my kids. So it's, again, that's another thing that's been really cool, is I've had this ability to go do this show, which is on the opposite side of the country of where I live, but I'm only gone for a day, and then I can see my kids again. So it's actually, this whole thing's worked out nice, and it's been a truly a really cool blessing for me.
Now, I personally stopped watching WWE quite a while ago, but I did follow I heard about your struggles where you wanted out of your contract. They wouldn't let you out of the contract. I guess that was related to a bizarre angle that you didn't agree with. Could you explain the whole situation for those that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, sure, man. So it was one of those things where I hadn't been being used for a while. And I know a lot of people ask me all the time, why did you resign? Because I had asked for my release before I resigned. And I think that's a legitimate question. I think people are curious, like, why? Well, if you wanted your release before you resigned, why did you end up resigning? And it's complicated, I guess, in the sense that when you finally become a dad, everything is for your kids. Everything you do, you put your kids, you put your family before everything. So when WWE came to me with a new contract, I had never seen any kind of money like that before. I mean, I'm a small town kid. I grew up in a little town in Carver, Massachusetts, and you start to plan for your future. And so I was looking at this and I was like, man, I don't know. I don't like what I'm doing creatively, but can I put that aside and just focus on my family? And so me and my wife talked about it, and that kind of seemed like the direction we were going to go. But then we started doing this angle where my wife was actually legitimately pregnant, and they wanted to use it in a storyline, which to me, personal storylines like that are fine if it benefits the person who's doing the storyline. So if they're going to take someone's drug addiction or take someone's real life personal matters and they're going to turn it into a storyline and someone agrees to it, I think that's fine as long as you benefit the person who is essentially giving up their personal life for this storyline. And we were constantly told time and time again that this storyline was going to turn into something positive for me and my wife, and told that it wasn't going to be used to embarrass us. We were told there was going to be an ending, there was going to be some sort of a payoff. And it was kind of, if people aren't familiar, it was a storyline of my wife was actually pregnant, and they wanted to do the story of like, oh, who's the dad? And my wife is going to continuously berate me and demean me and insult me. And eventually it was going to turn into this big baby face turn for me. But unfortunately, what that company does time and time again is they use these things to try to personally insult people and try to embarrass them. And unfortunately, I was a victim of that. And, I should have known. I shouldn't have been so naive. I should have saw the writing on the wall, because a lot of people did. And a lot of people told me about it. But when you're in the moment, you're just kind of going, and you kind of hope to see the best in people. But, unfortunately, that wasn't it. And so once the storyline kind of just ended and there was no payoff, and it just kind of sat there, and we both were like, well, now this just makes me look foolish. And now we kind of insulted my wife, and we insulted my unborn son. And now I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. That was just kind of it for me. And I was just like, I don't want to work here anymore, because I'm not happy. And I don't like how you treat people. You don't treat your employees right. I just eventually get to the point where humanity and decency becomes really important to you. And that company tends not to have that much humanity and decency.
Do you think they offered you that deal to resign just to embarrass you?
I think they offered me that deal so I wouldn't go to another company, honestly. I mean, and that's the fact. Like, I was told after I signed it that they were going to use me and they were going to do all these things with me. But hindsight's 2020, and looking back, they 100% just re-signed most guys, including myself, just so they wouldn't go to AEW, because that was that was their biggest fear. And they'll tell you it wasn't, and they'll tell you that they're not. Oh, I'm throwing my headphones around. They'll tell you that that they weren't signing guys and girls up to keep them from going to AEW, but everyone knew what the deal was.
Would you ever have agreed to do an angle with your wife like they did with Rusev before they let him go?
Now, absolutely not. Now that I've been through the fire and I know how this works, I don't think so, because I would say maybe for another company that I trust, because I think it's all kind of phony. It's make believe television, like whatever. It's like acting, but I don't trust that company. And I say maybe for another company, but knowing how other companies operate and having been to, I don't think there's another company around right now that would ever ask someone to do something like that. So for WWE, no, I don't think so.
And for those that don't know, they actually didn't give you your release when I guess you asked for it privately a couple of times. It was in the Observer this week, actually, you talking about it. And then ultimately they ended up releasing you and your wife back in April, I think it was, as part of that mask release. So how were your feelings when that happened?
I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to happen. Just because we had gotten a message before saying people are going to be released. So I always knew. I looked at my wife and I was like, all right, I'm definitely on this list of people that are getting released, because I had asked for my release. What bothered me was that they released her, because she didn't ask for her release. And time again, when I was going to management and I was talking to them, I made it perfectly clear. I was like, this is just me. We're two separate talents. And they understood that, and they told us that. And even when we re-signed, they said, we're making sure we're treating you as two separate talents. And again, maybe a lot of it's on me, and I was naive and gullible that I ever even believed them. But I like to see the best in people, and I like to believe that when people tell me something, it's the truth. That's just how I was raised. But it bothered me that they fired her, because she didn't want to go. She had given the company almost 6 years before we were signed this second time, and then 3 years this second time that we were signed. So that's almost 10 years that she gave to this company. And for them to just be like, oh, we're going to release you in the middle of a pandemic, for her, when they didn't have to, it rubs me the wrong way. I'm one of these people that I'll sit there, and if people want to do things to me and make fun of me, insult me, treat me badly, I can take it. The minute you do something to my family, I can't sit back and take it. It hurts. And I know there's a lot of people out there like that, but you affect my kids, or you affect my wife, or anyone that's close to me, then it pisses me off. And I think there's a part of me that was like, I thought it was very cowardly for them to 8 months earlier to not release me when I could have gone and worked other places. But then in the middle of a pandemic, for them to be like, oh yeah, you can't work anywhere, so now we'll release you. I just think that's cowardly. I think I think you can see the forest for the trees. It's just gross to me.
Now, how did you develop the relationship with Maria to begin with? Because as you talk, it's always difficult to have a relationship in the wrestling business. Were you hesitant to become serious with a female wrestler?
Well, I mean, I wasn't hesitant, because I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, this girl's actually interested in someone like me. But I understand that perception that, wrestling relationships never worked. But there was something always different, where we put our wrestling relationship aside, and we never considered ourselves a wrestling couple. We considered ourselves a couple who just happened to work in professional wrestling. And so it was never like, I knew when we met that she was the bigger star. She was always the bigger star, because I was just some indie schmuck coming up. So I always knew that she was the bigger star. And I think our respect for each other and what we had done in the industry, and my respect for her and her respect for me, kind of helped us, because I knew that when we were at signings, people were going to want to meet her more than they were going to want to meet me. And I knew that in the airport, people were going to want to take pictures with her and not take pictures. Like I got that. I understood that. And it didn't hurt my feelings. And I think that actually helped. Like I wasn't jealous. I wasn't embarrassed. It didn't hurt my feelings or hurt my ego. And I think she always had this level of respect for me trying to make a name for myself. And she always kind of helped me and cleared a path for me and was like, this is the way you do it. Don't make this mistake. Try to do this. And I always took her advice. I always listened to her, because she's got a good head on her shoulders. And I think the fact that we both had this level of mutual respect for each other, and the fact that we were just like, all right, we're just a couple first, and then we just happened to be wrestlers. I think that actually helped us in the long run. Well, I know it helped us in the long run, because we're still together.
Did you ever have any situations where like other wrestlers were maybe coming on to her before you got married, and some of the wrestlers may have been higher up on the card than you, and like you didn't know how to react?
Honestly, that I understand that question, but that never actually took place. I feel like, for the most part, because we spent most of our career together, like in New Japan and in Ring of Honor and in Impact, that we had a lot of respect in the locker room, and we respected everyone else, and everyone else respected us. And no one ever, everyone was just like, yeah, that's just Mike and Maria. Like everyone just knew. And it was just one of those like, yeah, that's it. And I think there was just such a level of respect for the two of us that never, no one ever really approached that or touched that. And I, I'm sure people might have thought it. I don't know. I don't try to get into people's thoughts, but it never took place.
Okay, as I've seen it happen in wrestling with other females, so I guess you're lucky.
Yeah.
A fan on here, Hurricane Maverick, wants to know, how is it working for TNA compared to WWE?
So TNA was great. I know there was always uh, everyone's been public about the pay issues back when we were there, and that was what it was. But as far as creative and as far as the locker room, and I had the time of my life there, working for like Billy Corgan and John Gaborik. Like they trusted me. They trusted, especially when I was doing that angle with EC3. They trusted the two of us to go out there and just kind of do what we do, and they gave us very little guidelines. And I always appreciated that, because I feel like my work thrived and everyone else's work thrives when you're allowed to do your thing and be creative. At WWE, it's just like, this is how it is. You just, this is the script, this is the story, this is what Vince wants, and you can't go anywhere off of that. And don't even try, because if you try, you're in trouble. And so that's very difficult. And I've said this before, but like at WWE, you wrestle to impress Vince. Like it's an audience of one. Everything you do is to impress Vince. Every move you make, it's like, oh, Vince is really high on chin locks this week. He really wants to see a lot of chin locks. So some weeks you'll see a ton of chin locks because that's what Vince wants. Vince really likes it when you don't shout in your promos and you just talk. So for months on end, you'll see people just talking in their promos. Or Vince really wants people to be like loud this week, so people are loud one week. It's an audience of one. No one's wrestling for the fans at WWE, where I feel like at Impact we're trying to put on the best product for the fans. At WWE, you're just trying to keep your job and impress, or not. I shouldn't say impress. You're trying to just not piss off the boss.
So what would you have in retrospect? The job with the pay issues and the not great pay, or the security of WWE and the crazy boss?
So since having both, I can 100% say that money does not buy you happiness. And I'm sorry that these things keep falling out. I just got them and I have no idea how to use them. It doesn't buy you happiness. And that was one of the reasons why I asked for my release. And because I initially took the money because I thought that would be best for my family. But then the anger and the animosity and the spite that started building up by going to work and bringing it home, I was like, this isn't good for my family. Me being upset all the time, that's not good for my kids. They don't need to see their dad like that all the time. So I would definitely take the job with the money issues, but the happiness and the creative freedom anytime. Because to me, I feel like you can keep working at it and eventually get to a place where you make that kind of money. But at WWE, it's, you eventually get cut off. That's it. If they don't see anything in you, you're just going to sit there until they fire you, and then your name value is kind of worthless at that point.
And this Proxy RU has a question. Could a wrestler turn down a writer's idea or Vince's idea in WWE? And if they did turn it down, would they be punished?
Yes, 100%. You can turn down whatever you want. I mean, I could have instantly told them I don't want to do this angle or this, but then you're not doing anything. You'll just be sitting there, and they won't formally tell you you're punished. They will just stop using you. And you'll hear it through the grapevine, because that's how it works. People will come up to you and be like, oh, boss is pissed that you said this, or boss is pissed that you did that. That's just, no one ever comes to you face to face like an actual human being or an adult and is like, oh, this is the issue, you should go talk to the boss about it. No, it's always like high school through the grapevine. Oh, so-and-so's mad at you, you should go. Like, it's always so lame. But yeah, you'll 100% be punished. Not formally, but yeah, you'll know that you're 100% punished.
Now, what are some of the highlights of your New Japan career for those that don't know? And I was actually shocked when I was looking you up this week that they used Maria in New Japan too, because there's not a lot of American females used over there.
Yeah, man, that was actually really cool. And they treated her so kindly and like so respectful that they gave her own locker room, and like they were just so polite that like because they don't have that many females over there, that they were very adamant about being so over the top accommodating for her, which went a long way with me. Because like I said, if you treat my family well, you're golden. You're in my good graces forever. So someone treating my wife like that, I was like, that's awesome. But for me, as a guy who was always told you'll never go to Japan, or you don't fit that style, or you don't belong, it was so cool. And to go over there with my best friend and my wife, and to have matches with guys that are two of my best friends, and Carl and Doc and the Bullet Club, like it just was so cool. And then to win the IWGP Tag Team titles, that again the legacy of those belts and the prestige, and just like again, as a guy who never thought he would ever end up there, and now he's there, it's so incredibly cool. And I look back so fondly. It was we did like, I think we did 2 World Tag Leagues, and then we did I was there for the G1 Climax finale. We never got to do any Tokyo Dome shows, which is something that I regretted, because that was one thing I always wanted to do. And fingers crossed, that's a big goal of mine right now. But yeah, it's one of my favorite times in wrestling.
You mentioned your friends with Gallows and Anderson. Any chance they could get you back in with Impact, since they seem to have a lot of pull there?
Yeah, man. I definitely, I think that's kind of how wrestling works. Is we all do our thing. We all make connections. We all make friends, and then when the time is right, you hit up your friends, or your friends hit up you. I still I talk to Carl on a daily basis all the time. We're buddies. I mean, I did the worst show in the history of shows, the Talking Shop of Mania, because they asked me to, and it was right after all of us got fired, and so we were like, yeah, let's do it. And so I think I've tried to keep a lot of friends in wrestling. After I've left companies, I tried to make it a priority to stay in touch with these companies, and to not leave a sour taste in their mouth. I always stayed in touch with Joe Koff at Ring of Honor, and he would always message me. He would always check on my kids and see how we're doing. And I would always try to keep in touch with people from Impact, and even people that weren't in Impact at the time and now are in Impact. I stayed friends with them. So, I think when the time is right, you'll hit up your friends and see if they can help, and then you go from there. And I think that's just, I mean, that's kind of how the wrestling industry works.
For Ring of Honor, you were there when it was really popular. AEW kind of took all the top talent from Ring of Honor. Do you think they'll ever again be where they once were?
You know what? I truly do, only because Ring of Honor kind of like made this whole revolution of professional wrestling. They were kind of like the backbone back in like 2003 and 4, where all these guys were coming up who then ended up, integrating into WWE. But I think Ring of Honor has the history, and Ring of Honor has the foundation to truly take over again, because I see what they're doing with like the Pure tournament. And I think fans are dying for that kind of content. I think fans, I think they get what they get from WWE, they get what they get from AEW, but I think like pure wrestling in America, I think the only place to go for that is Ring of Honor, and they're kind of showcasing it in a way that's not being done. And so I think they're getting a lot of buzz from it now, and I think that's really the way they should keep going and keep that alive, because I think that's going to be what eventually gets them to be like, this is Ring of Honor, because they're killing it right now.
CAPA is asking what your best indie road story is.
Oh God, indie road stories. I don't know. There's so many. There was I'll tell you one of the scariest road stories. I did a show in Plainfield, Connecticut for Brutal Bob Evans, and it was during a snowstorm, and I was driving with 2 other guys, and we were trying to, believe it or not, after every show we all go out to eat usually. And so we were trying to get to, I think it was a TGI Fridays or maybe it was a Ruby Tuesdays. I don't know. But we were trying to get there before it closed. So I'm trying to keep up with the car in front of me who knows the way, and they're just hauling ass. And I'm like, I'm going to miss it. And I think this was probably like '06 or '07. So, not everyone had the GPS on their phone and stuff like that. Everyone was still using MapQuest or trying to figure it out. And I just remember we hit this patch of ice, and my car must have spun 10 times on the highway. And I was just like, oh, this is it. This is the end for me. And luckily we spun, and we spun right into a snowbank, and it was the softest stop ever. And I just remember like looking over, and the snowbank had stopped us from like a steep drop off into the woods. And I was just like, holy crap, someone was looking out for me. Not only that, but for some reason, the passenger side door had swung open. And I was like, who opened the passenger door? And the guy who was next to me, who was an indie wrestler, who's not working anymore now, but he was like, I don't know. And I'm like, it must have been you, because the doors. See, what I think happened was halfway through spinning, he decided he was going to jump out before we stopped, because he thought that might have been the safest way. But instead, we ended up just kind of hitting the snowbank nice and softly. And thankfully, he didn't have to jump out. But that was, it was terrifying.
Now, you've already talked about Maria a good amount, but Silva Surfer wants to know the story of how you guys actually met.
So we actually met at an independent show, Northeast Wrestling, for Michael Lombardi. It was one of when she first the first time she was released from WWE, she started doing some indies, and that's where we met. We actually, I remember seeing her and being like, oh my God, that woman's beautiful, and not really having talked to her. So I didn't know much about her. But then I remember we started having this conversation, and I was like, oh my God. And she's brilliant, and she's fun to talk to, and she has this wonderful personality. But again, I was like, I don't have a shot with her. And I think I was dating someone at the time. I think I was in a god awful relationship at the time. And I think Maria was too. And so you don't really think that much about it. But then we all ended up going out to eat afterwards. And me and Maria had sat across from each other. And we just we had this chemistry. She made fun of me because I ate mozzarella sticks with a knife and a fork, which I don't usually eat mozzarella sticks with a knife and a fork. But because I was trying to impress her at the time, I was like, I know what girls like. They like a guy that's proper. So of course I ate my mozzarella stick, and she made fun of me for it. But after that night, nothing really like happened, because we were both dating other people. But then a few months down the line, I think I DM'd her on Twitter because I was single, and I think she was single at the time. And then we just started talking, and then she flew out for a signing in Philadelphia. I was living in Boston at the time, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a close drive. I'll come down. I drove like 7 hours down to Philadelphia to hang out with her, not telling her how long the drive was. So, and then from there, we just started dating. We did a long distance relationship before we moved in together. So yeah, it was actually at an indie show.
And as far as your workouts, now that you have kids, I see you still look like you're in really good shape. I'm sure your wife is too. How have your workouts changed over the years, now that you have all these family responsibilities?
It's just a matter of trying to find balance, because we have a 2-year-old girl and we have an 8-month-old son, and they require a lot of our attention. And especially now with this virus, and still feeling kind of uncomfortable to send our 2-year-old back to daycare. So it's really all us all the time, the kids all the time. So it's just a matter of Maria being like, all right, I'm doing the gym now, and you watch the kids. And then usually around nap time in the afternoon, I'll go and I'll hit the gym. But it's go, go, go. It's no time to talk, no time to chat. We got to hit the gym, do it. And then a lot of times we just work out at home. I recently, over the last month or so, started doing DDP yoga. She's got a Peloton bike that she uses all the time. So there's a lot of home workouts, and then a lot of like actual gym workouts when we can either get the kids down to nap or figure it out that way.
So for this match coming up against Davey Boy Smith Jr., he's actually the champion of our company here in Canada. So cool. I have to say I am going for him in that match. But what's your plans against him? He's a very skilled technician, and he has a size advantage for this big NWA show coming up in a couple of weeks.
You know what? It's I think you're underestimating the size advantage. I think we worked once a while back. I think when I was still at Ring of Honor, I did an independent show and we wrestled each other. And the one thing I just remember him being in the ring with him was I just kept saying to myself, he's the biggest man alive. And how does this man this size move so well? You know what, man? I don't know. He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. He's strong. He's big. He's quick, and he's got all these this background that sets him apart from everyone else. So this match is. I'm excited about it because I think our clash of styles is going to be fun. But it's. I have a feeling it's going to be a very hard hitting match because I don't want to go hold for hold with him. But maybe eventually he'll probably just knock me out, but at least I'll know I tried my best because I'm not going hold for hold with him.
Apparently he accidentally knocked out his opponent in Bloodsport. I don't know if you heard about that one.
No, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Now I'm terrified.
Lauren wants to know who was the best wrestler to work in WWE and who was the worst. Oh, we froze again. Hopefully you'll...
the best wrestler to work with, is that what you asked me? And who was the worst?
Yeah, we froze for a second.
God,
they want to know the best and the worst.
Okay, cool. Honestly, I don't know what the worst was because everyone at WWE is good in their own way. There never, let me just put it this way. There was never one I got into the ring with and I was like, okay, that guy doesn't know what he's doing. Not the indies, that happens all the time. At WWE, it doesn't really happen that often. And I'm also not I don't like bad about other workers just because we're all in this together. And like we all the bombs, we put the bull crap. The best while I was honestly, one of my favorite matches I had was against Drake Maverick. He's so underrated. He's so incredibly underrated. He's so incredibly talented. The way he sells, the way people believe. Any day of the week, and I know we could get the crowd into it. He just emits this kind of emotion, and he just moves in the ring that anyone that's a worker or a wrestler understands. It just makes it easier for a heel to work with him. He's just the way he sells, the way he interacts, the way he moves. He makes heels look really, really good.
And Walter wants you to come to AEW. Any chance of that in the future? I know it's not up to you.
Right. Yeah, no, that's I think that's a question everyone always asks. Like, are you going to this company or going to that company? It's never up to us. I wish it was. I wish we could just be like, this is where we're going. Of course, I love all the guys over there. I did the stuff with Cody and in TNA. Obviously the history with the Bucks. And it's just, I absolutely, I love what they're doing. To me, my main focus right now is to just have as many really, really good wrestling matches as I can, because I'm just trying to prove to people that what they saw on WWE TV for the last 3 years isn't actually who I am. So if that means I go there, if that means I go to Impact or Ring of Honor or New Japan or just keep doing the indies, then that's what it means. I just want to keep having, I've literally gone into every match. I think I've had 5 matches, maybe. I don't know. But I've gone into every match since my release as like, this is the most important match of your career, from Nick Aldis to Cheeseburger at Warrior Wrestling to Tom Lawler at Black Label Pro, and with my match with Kratos this past week. Like every match I've said, this is your WrestleMania match. This is your final battle match. This is your most important match that you're going to have. And that's what I want to keep doing.
As far as WWE, you say that we never saw all that you had there. How choreographed are the TV matches? Are the agents pretty much going from A to Z through the matches there for you?
Yeah, honestly, for the most part, just because it's television. And again, they want to make sure you're not going to do anything that doesn't piss off the boss, because that's how it works there. It's make sure, oh, this is what he likes, so he's going to want to see this. And of course, most of the TV matches are 5-6 minutes, so everything is boom, 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 so they can get the right shot for this and this. There's very little room for creativity there.
There's a fan on here that wants to know if you think Vince is the best heel ever, and if not, who is?
He's definitely up there. For all the things that he does that piss me off, he was the one. Like, I mean, I became a wrestler because I was obsessed with the Attitude Era. I was obsessed with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mick Foley and all those guys. And his feud with Austin was one of the best of all time. So yeah, if he's not the best heel, he's 100% up there.
Donovan wants to know who is the one wrestler, past or present, who you would love to work a match with.
It's Edge, hands down. Probably for like the last. So Edge, when I was growing up and was like a diehard wrestling fan, was never like a big fan favorite of mine. Then when I became a wrestler and actually understood wrestling 101 and psychology and all the stuff that goes into being a wrestler, he 100% became my absolute favorite wrestler just by watching him move, his heel work. Like, to me, I don't think Cena gets over as much as he does without heel Edge, without Edge being that grimy, disgusting, just evil heel to Cena's super baby face. So, and then getting to actually know him on a friendship level and having him just be so incredibly kind and helpful to me and giving me advice. And I still talk to him to this day. And then getting to see him come back at the Rumble, I was like, oh, he's back. I'm going to get to it's Edge, hands down, 100%.
Richard wants to know if you're going to have a rematch with Dirty Daddy Dickinson.
You know what? I hope so. Now that we're both in the brackets and, actually, the fact that we were both doing UWN, that was one of the matches that I was super hopeful that I would get to have. And now I'll just have to win my side of the bracket and he'll have to win his side of the bracket. But I am dying to work with Dickinson. Our match at Beyond wasn't really a match. And so to actually have a match, dude, he's so incredibly talented. And the fact that he hasn't gotten some sort of an opportunity or a break somewhere, it blows my mind. But the way I've been wrestling lately, I think really meshes well with the way he wrestles. He's like this big all Japanese style wrestler. And that's been like my main focus lately. I've been watching a lot of Kobashi matches and like, I'm obsessed with that hard hitting style right now because I never really embraced that before. And now I've 100% embraced it. So I hope we get to work each other because he's amazing.
Peter wants to know what you think went wrong in WWE. Like, did you piss somebody off to start the downward spiral, or did they just not have any plans for you from the start?
I could have, but like I said, no one told me if I did. So even if I did, I never know, or I never knew, and nobody told me. But there was a lot. There was a lot because I've said this before. I don't put all of the blame on WWE at all. I put a lot of the blame on myself. I mean, I came in and I was still addicted to painkillers. So right out the gate, I gave a terrible impression. So I don't understand how I can't put some of the blame on myself. I think that played into a factor. I don't think Vince ever really liked me. I think he always thought I was a good hand and a decent wrestler, but Vince is very big into like these alpha males, and you carry yourself like a man, and that's how you do it. And I'm very much just like I'm just kind of happy-go-lucky, and I'm like, oh, my wife does this, I do this. I'm a family man. I take care of my kids. I don't really subscribe to that alpha male personality. And Vince, I don't think Vince appreciated that. I think. I think Vince thinks the man does what the man does. And that's not how I am. And that's fine. Again, he runs his company that way and he's been successful doing it. We butted heads. I didn't like how he ran his company. I don't like his opinion on things. And he probably clearly didn't like my opinion on things. And that's perfectly fine. And we go our separate ways. But I think there was I don't think we mixed. I think it was a bad fit. And sometimes that's life.
As far as the pain pills that you mentioned, did you have to go to WWE rehab for that, or did you conquer that on your own?
No, so I actually didn't. And I'm glad you brought it up because a lot of people always say, oh, WWE paid for your rehab and this and that. And they didn't. I was on on the road. So I didn't have time to go to rehab. I was doing SmackDown live events, and I was doing SmackDown 4 or 5 days a week. Even though I wasn't on TV, which I wasn't, they were still having me do the live event. So I was gone. Let's see, SmackDown was usually taped on Tuesday. I'm trying to figure it out in my head. So I was gone Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I was doing live events Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, SmackDown on Tuesday, travel day on Wednesday, home Thursday and Friday, and then back on the road Saturday. So I was only home for like 2 days a week. And that was really my rehab. Instantly out of the gate, when I admitted I had a problem to my wife, she was the one she took my phone, she took my keys, she took my wallet, and she was like, "We're getting through this together." I kind of isolated myself for 2 weeks. And then once I got back on the road, I traveled with Connor from the Ascension, and I traveled with Rowan, and they were kind of like my big brothers, and they just looked out for me. I remember Connor was always just like, "We'll go to the show, we'll go back to the hotel. You'll eat, you'll be fine, and then we'll wake up and we'll do it all again tomorrow." But he was always like, the two of them, Connor and Rowan, always really took care of me. But I always tell people, my wife was my rehab. My wife took care of me. My wife made sure she made sure, "You're going to get through this. I'm not going to let you die. I'm going to make sure you survive and you get through this." So, yeah, WWE didn't pay for my rehab. I didn't go there. I did it. I did it through friends and through support of my wife, my family, and the guys on the road.
So I guess because they were prescription pills, they weren't a wellness policy failure or anything like that.
Yeah, man. And again, I don't know how many people know a lot about addicts, but when you're an addict, you figure out ways to get around things. I mean, I kept it a secret from my wife and my family for 5 years. And like you said, because it's a prescription, you're going to be okay with it. But it's like, how much of that prescription do you take? And when you're taking too much, then it becomes an addiction. But like, there's no blame on WWE. WWE had no clue. And I made a point that they didn't know. So it's like they get no fault here. I don't put any blame on them. And for some reason, I think a lot of people think I do, which I don't. I just don't. This is all me. I was the addict. Whether they even though like they never asked me if I needed help, that's fine. They're a company. They don't have to. They never. Their wellness policy is really good. They take care of their guys. They make sure their guys are healthy. We do physicals. So as far as that stuff goes, no, it's this is 100%. This is me. This is my issue.
And last fan question I'll ask for today. James wants to know, would you ever consider going into MMA?
No, I don't think so. I don't consider myself like a badass. I think I can take an ass whooping and keep coming back for more, but I think the fight would just be like me on the ground being like, "All right, punch me again. I'm not going to give up until I get knocked out." Those guys are different animals, man. Like, I think wrestlers are tough, but it's a different kind of toughness. We can put up with the pain and keep going, but to go into like a cage and know you're just going to get punched in the face and come back for more, that's a different animal, man. And I have the utmost respect for guys like that. Like the fact that CM Punk would like put himself in that position, I have so much respect for that. Like, that's, God, you have to be a tough SOB to just be like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to transition from wrestling into MMA. No, I don't. I would love to do MMA for like the training and the cardio and just to be like, yeah, I did MMA, and then have people think I'm actually really cool. But no, I don't think I'll transition anytime soon.
And you probably wouldn't be as lucky as CM Punk to make like 500 to $1 million per fight. For your first fights. You don't want to do that for low pay, for sure.
No. I mean, I'll take the payday, but it ain't going to be a good fight. I can promise you that.
So as far as your social media, where can people follow you if they want to look you up?
So basically I stick to like Twitter, and I stick to Instagram. I love talking to fans on Twitter. I really do. I try to filter out the negativity, and I try to talk to the people that just want to talk wrestling, but at Real Mike Bennett on Twitter, and then Instagram, it's a lot of wrestling and a lot of my family, a lot of motivational and workout stuff. So it's at the Real Michael Bennett on Instagram, at Real Mike Bennett on Twitter, at the Real Michael Bennett on Instagram.
And for any of the fans that want to order the NWA UWM pay-per-views, I have the link in the description. It's also on my website, thehannibaltv.com. They're only $7.99 for one show, or you can buy like 4 shows for $23.99, I think. So very good value. You've been impressed with them so far, I guess.
Yeah, man, it's been they've been professional the way they've run everything from like making sure everyone's safe with the virus and just getting me in and out so I can see my kids, and then just bringing in quality wrestlers and quality matches, and just especially in these times when everyone's trying to figure out what the hell comes next as far as indie wrestling and professional wrestling. I give Dave Marquez and all those guys a ton of credit because I think they have, and like you said, it's only $7.99. It's a great deal for a weekly pay-per-view, and it's giving guys exposure, and it's I just think it's really cool. Like I'm really happy, and I feel blessed that they keep flying me out to do that because again, nobody has to give me a shot, and I'm just truly thankful for it.
Well, to close this off, do you want to give a message to Davey Boy Smith Jr. about your upcoming match in this title tournament for the United Wrestling Network title?
Well, first out, please do not knock me out because I got to get my flight afterwards so I can go see my children. But secondly, I think the Mike Bennett you saw 5 or 6 years ago, or whenever we worked on the Independents, is entirely different. And I know he's entirely different. And I think this is going to be one of those matches that, or I'm hoping this is one of those matches people talk about for a long time because I'm prepared to get hit and I'm prepared to hit him very hard. And I think the both of us are kind of on that same page. And so I'm looking forward to this kind of mesh of styles that we're going to bring.